Hello everyone, welcome to my channel TechQuest Learning Point. I hope you all are doing great. I am Bashar. In my previous tutorial in this series of Azure Fundamentals, I already discussed on the topic of benefits of using cloud service. Today, I am going to start a discussion on the topic cloud service types. You can get the clearer concepts about the cloud service types, including infrastructure as a service, platform as a service, and software as a service. I can assure you all that this tutorial will make sense to you about Azure fundamentals. The ultimate target of this tutorial is to make you prepare for the exam AZ900 Microsoft Azure Fundamentals. If anyone want to be the Microsoft certified Azure Fundamentals, this tutorial will be right choice for them to make clear the exam AZ900 Microsoft Azure Fundamentals. This tutorial is derived from the Microsoft Learning Paths for Azure Fundamentals exam. So anyone can rely on this tutorial to take the preparation for the exam AZ900 Microsoft Azure Fundamentals. Before starting the discussion, let's look into the contents of this tutorial. What will be discussed? In this tutorial, I am going to discuss on the cloud service types that cloud computing offers. This discussion will the flexibility you will have with the managing and configuring resources. You will understand how the shared responsibility model applies to each cloud service type and about various cases for each cloud service type. The exam AZ900 Microsoft Azure Fundamentals includes three knowledge domain areas such as number 1, describe cloud concepts, number 2, describe Azure architecture and services, number 3, describe Azure management and governance. This tutorial is the third episode of the Azure Fundamental Service and it is the part of the knowledge domain areas. Cloud computing types or service types are the service deployment models that let you choose the level of control over your information and types of services you need to provide. There are three main types of cloud computing services, sometimes called the cloud's computing stack because they build on top of one another. The first cloud computing type is infrastructure as a service IaaS, which is used for internet-based access to storage and computing power. The most basic category of cloud computing types IaaS lets you rent IT infrastructure, servers and virtual machines, storage, networks and operating systems from a cloud provider on a pay-as-you-go basis. To put another way, the infrastructure as a service is used to meet your demand of storage and computing power through internet access. In this cloud computing, cloud provider rent to the infrastructure including servers, virtual machines, storage, networks and operating systems. If we look into the diagram, the lower portion indicate as servers, storage and network is managed by cloud provider and the middle of upper portion managed by the customer. The consumer is responsible for making platform and also required applications. So the consumer enjoys more control on cloud computing infrastructure. Infrastructure as a service IaaS is the most flexible category of cloud services as it provides you the maximum amount of control for your cloud resources. In an IaaS model, the cloud provider is responsible for maintaining the hardware, network connectivity, and physical security. The consumer is responsible for everything else: operating system installation, configuration, and maintenance, network configuration, database and storage configuration, and so on. With IaaS, the cloud provider is essentially renting to the hardware in the cloud data center. The consumer is standing up cloud resources similar to his on-prem data center and then simply moving the things running on-prem to running on the IaaS infrastructure. This is called lift and shift migration. The shared responsibility model applies to all the cloud service types. IaaS places the largest share of responsibility with a consumer. The cloud provider is responsible for maintaining the physical infrastructure and its access to the internet. The consumer is responsible for installation and configuration, patching and updates, and security. If we look into the shared responsibility diagram, the consumer is responsible for information and data, devices, PC and mobile, accounts and identities, identity and directory infrastructure, applications, network controls, and operating systems. It shows the maximum responsibilities for the consumer. That means the consumer has maximum flexibility to manage and configure the resources in the cloud computing and also has more control on it. The remaining responsibilities including physical network, physical host and physical data center goes under the cloud provider's shoulder. The second cloud computing type is the platform as a service, PaaS, that gives developers the tools to build and host web applications. PaaS is designed to give users access to the components they require to quickly develop and operate web or mobile applications over the internet without worrying about setting up or managing the underlying infrastructure of servers, storage, networks, and databases. In the diagram of platform as a service, the platform as a service is consist of the middleware and operating systems portion and server, storage, and networks portion. In this cloud of computing type, the consumer get facilities to develop the applications and then host on the cloud. The consumer is responsible for only the portion of applications and packaged software, and the cloud provider is for middleware, operating system portion, and server, storage, and network portion. User control is moderate here. Platform as a service is a middle ground between renting space in the data center and paying for a complete and deployed solution. In a PaaS environment, the cloud provider maintains the physical infrastructure, physical security, and connection to the internet. They also maintain the operating systems, middleware, development tools, and business intelligence services that make up a cloud solution. In a PaaS scenario, you don't have to worry about the licensing or patching for operating systems and databases. PaaS is well suited to provide a complete development environment without the headache of maintaining all the development infrastructure. In another way, PaaS provides a framework that developers can build upon to develop or customize cloud-based applications. Similar to the way you create an Excel macro, PaaS lets you developers create applications using built-in software components. Cloud features such as scalability, high availability, and multiple talent capability are included, reducing the amount of coding that developers must do. The shared responsibility model applies to all the cloud service types. PaaS splits the responsibility between the consumer and the cloud provider. The cloud provider is responsible for maintaining the physical infrastructure and its access to the internet, just like in IaaS. In the PaaS model, The cloud provider will also maintain the operating systems, databases, and development tools. Think of us like using a domain joint machine. IT maintains the device with regular updates, patches, and refreshes. Depending on the configuration, the consumer or the cloud provider may be responsible for networking settings and connectivity with cloud environment, network and application security, and the directory infrastructure. As per the shared responsibility diagram, the consumer is responsible for information and data, devices, PC and mobile, accounts and identities. But the responsibility of the identity and directory infrastructure, applications, network control are shared between the consumer and the cloud provider. The remaining responsibility include operating systems, physical network, physical host, and the physical data center goes under the cloud provider's shoulder. The third cloud computing type is the software as a service (SaaS), which is used for web-based applications. SaaS is a method for delivering software applications over the internet where cloud providers host and manage the software applications, making it easier to have the same application on all of your devices at once by accessing it in the cloud. In the diagram of software as a service, the software as a service is consist of three portions, including the applications and packaged software, the middleware and operating systems portion, and the server, storage and networks portion. In this cloud computing type, the consumer get facilities to use the complete package software such as email and messaging, business application, and finance and expense tracking. The cloud provider is responsible for applications and packaged software portion, middleware and operating system portion, and the server, storage and network portion. It has less control. Software as a service is the most complete cloud service model from a product perspective. With SaaS, the consumer is essentially renting or using a fully developed application. Email, financial software, messaging applications, and connectivity software are all common examples of a SaaS implementation. While the SaaS model may be the least flexible, it is also the easiest to get up and running. It requires the least amount of technical knowledge or expertise to fully employ. The shared responsibility model applies to all the cloud service types. SaaS is the model that places the most responsibility with the cloud provider and the least responsibility with the user. In a SaaS environment, you are responsible for the data that you put into system, the devices that you allow to connect to the system, and the users that have access. Nearly everything else falls to the cloud provider. The cloud provider is responsible for physical security of the data centers, power, network connectivity, and application development and patching. Just I want to review three terms before ending. Infrastructure as a service, IaaS. The cloud provider is responsible for maintaining the hardware, network connectivity, and physical security. The consumer is responsible for everything else: operating system installation, configuration, and maintenance, network configuration, database and storage configuration, and so on. Platform as a service, PaaS. It is a middle ground between renting space in the data center and paying for a complete and deployed solution. Software as a service, SaaS. It is the most complete cloud service model from a product perspective. With SaaS, you are essentially renting or using a fully developed application such as email. Thank you for watching this tutorial. I hope you all have been able to take the idea about the cloud computing. My next tutorial will be on the topic of Introduction to Azure Fundamentals, and you all are invited to watch the tutorial. If you think this tutorial is helpful for learning the Azure cloud computing, please click on the like button and request you all to share it more and more to the person who are searching the tutorial like this. I always expect valuable feedback from you, and this will inspire me to give you more tutorial. If you have any questions on this tutorial, opinions and queries about this channel, please type this in the comment box. You also mail to me. In the description box, email ID is given for you. Kindly subscribe this channel and click on the bell button so that you can get notification when new tutorial is published.